The Welsh used to have these people that they call sin eaters. You know, they'd go around when some guy was dying, and like, they'd have these great big meals. Most of the sin eaters were real fat, and they'd gobble it all up, and symbolically they were supposed to be gobbling the sins of this person that was dying. And then, of course, when the sin eater died, he'd have to deal with all that before the throne of God, but supposedly the guy whose sins he was eating would be pure when he died. And we're a little bit like that. You make horror movies or you write horror novels, and people always ask you what happened to you when you were a kid.
When actor Bruce Campbell accidentally plays back a tape-recorded demonic incantation, the Evil Dead 2 roller coaster begins. Sam Raimi, directing his own sequel, supplies Evil Dead 2 with a non-stop series of ghastly possessions and assorted demonic mischief in this hilarious modern horror classic. There is a method to Raimi's madness. He wants to entertain you, and he succeeds, as almost no one has ever succeeded before.
Give me back my head! Give me back my head!
The worst crime I think that filmmakers can make is to make a boring picture. If it's boring, then it's all over. The audience, you've failed in entertaining them. You've committed a crime. One of the things that we learned from our repeated visits to the horror picture were certain laws that happen to apply to all horror pictures. And that is, the innocent must suffer. The poor sap who walks into the house has to be tormented. And then the next law came into, we came to realize there was a second law governing all horror pictures, and that was the guilty must be punished. Whatever evil thing there is out there, whatever dark force there is, the audience wants to see the hero lay into it pretty intensely. And then we found there was a third law, and that is that you must taste blood to be a man. You've got to go through this, in these horror films, this coming of age through this blood experience. Now, Joel and Ethan Coen have mentioned that a fourth law exists, that the dead must walk, but we're still testing that law in our research labs to see if it holds true in all cases. While we were selling Evil Dead 1 at the Cannes Film Festival is where I met Stephen King. And he was very kind, and he took what would have been an unnoticed horror picture and wrote this incredibly glowing review about it. And it really elevated the movie Evil Dead 1 from an obscure little picture to something that people looked at and looked favorably upon for the most part. And it really was the thing that pulled Robert Tappert, my partner, and myself up out of nowhere and enabled us to make another picture. So I'll always be indebted for that. When I saw The Hills Have Eyes, one of the most gut-wrenching horror pictures I've ever seen in my life, they had a scene where these hill people come into this trailer. They completely massacre the people that were living in the trailer. They take a parakeet, they bite its head off and drink it like a glass of blood. And then they come across this baby and they wonder whether they should raise it as their own or eat the baby because baby is good meat. And it's such a horrible scene that you're thinking, eat the baby. Don't raise it as one of your own. Please don't do that. That's even more heinous. Anyways, after they leave and the people come back to this trailer, they view all the carnage. And one of the things they see is a picture of the Jaws poster, the monster that's been like ripped in half. So I took it to mean that Wes Craven, the director of the movie, was saying, Jaws was just pop horror. What I have here is real horror. It's ripped that baby in half. So as a joke and as an homage to Wes Craven, I took a Hills Have Eyes poster and an Evil Dead, I put it in the cellar, one of the sets, and I ripped it in half to say, no, Wes, your picture's just pop horror. This is real horror. But just as a joke, of course. Now, Wes Craven has responded in his picture by putting a clip of Evil Dead #1 as a horror movie in a scene that a character is watching in his movie, Nightmare on Elm Street. I guess as to say, no, your movie, Evil Dead, is just a horror movie. Nightmare on Elm Street is the real horror. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go from there. I'm kind of running out of ideas, but we'll figure something out.
Raimi tried his hand as an actor in Thou Shalt Not Kill.
There is much for you to learn.
What are you?
You must taste blood. To be a man.
Raimi stars as the leader of a cult whose disturbed family kidnaps babies and barbecues family pets. Now he has to deal with some angry Vietnam veterans.
Nobody move.
What is this?
None of your damn business. You people get to your feet and move it out into the woods.
Oh, really? Well, let me tell you something. These people aren't going anywhere.
You're dead wrong about that, Chief. Now, I said move it out into the woods.
I said no!
The best way to watch a horror movie, I think, is to see it in a full crowd, because you get this energy going where the audience collectively gets afraid and it spreads throughout the crowd like wildfire if it's working. And if there's a good scare and it's working, they'll shriek their heads off in unison. And if you've made the movie and you've got a horror movie in a good house, in a good crowd like that, there's no greater thrill in the world to watch him scream. You just kind of giggle in the background. It's great. You really feel like you're entertaining him and that it's working.